Hey there, Four States. This is Luke Taylor, and welcome to another edition of the Author's Corner here on KNEO 91.7 FM, The Word. And today I'm filling in for Roberta Foster. We're going to be chatting with Brian Barcelona. He's down in Dallas, Texas, and he's going to be telling us about his new book, Legends Die Young, subtitled No One Lives Until They Die. This is published by Charisma House Publishers, and we just can't wait to hear all about it. So, hey, Brian, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so maybe to start off, just introduce this book for everybody. What is Legends Die Young all about?
So Legends Die Young, and to sum it up, is how to teach a believer to die to things that if you don't die to will inevitably kill your faith. And so when you look at Scripture, there were certain things that Jesus really spoke on, or even the Word speaks on, that are detrimental if you allow it to coexist with your faith.
And Brian, I forgot to mention this at the start, that you're the founder of One Voice Student Ministries and the Jesus Clubs. And so you've been a leader on the forefront of trying to reach the youth of America. And tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what your organization does.
Yeah, for the last 15 years, we've reached public high schools in America preaching the gospel. And we're now in 47 states and 78 countries. Still doing the same thing. Yeah.
Well, hey, excellent. And so you've written this book here, Legends Die Young. Is this your first book?
This is my third book.
Your third book. Okay. Well, and so I really love the idea here of what you said it's all about. I think that whole concept of dying to ourselves is not even just something that really affects the youth, but all of us. We all need to learn to die to ourselves and figure out what Christ has for us in our lives. And so you state that there's many books that focus on becoming a better you, but there's only a few books that teach you to lay your life down. That is so true. And so do you think this misaligned focus, is that only a secular issue, or is this something that Christians need to be aware of as well?
Oh, I think most self-help books are faith-based, to some degree. I think as Christians, we have not really understood the theology of suffering, theology of what do we do when we're disappointed. And I think, again, that's why people leave the faith when there's failures, falls, hardships. God didn't do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. We very much have been taught that Christianity is a genie in a bottle that you rub and grants our wishes. And that's never, ever what was supposed to be the case.
Yeah. Well, was there a certain moment in your life that really opened your eyes to how this is a problem, or maybe came to some realizations in your own life and what eventually led to you writing this book?
Oh, I think number one, myself. Thinking through, it's so easy for me to praise God, it all goes well. But the moments of testing, the moments of disappointment have really shown, I think Todd White always says, when you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. Mm-hmm. I think as Christians, when we're squeezed, what comes out is who we really are.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, again, if anyone just tuned in, the book here, it's called Legends Die Young, No One Lives Until They Die. It's by Brian Barcelona, who we're speaking to right now. And, many of us, Brian, we look at martyrs as the super Christians, the most exceptional believers. And, we kind of place them, we call ourselves maybe just the more regular Joe believers, but the martyrs are really the ones who have given it all. And yet, it's not just that they have different rules for them than there are for us. We're all called to give it all. Even if you're going to be on this earth for 1 more year or 100 more years, we have the same calling on all of us. It's to die to ourselves. And what are some ways that readers can live their lives for God during their daily routines?
Well, I think number one, martyrs, it's defining that term. And a martyr is to be, you're a witness. And I think that the downfall in the kind of Western mindset of Christianity is that there's certain levels of cost that people pay, but it's not everyone. Not everyone has to do that. But I think obviously a pastor might have a different expression of how he lives out his faith. Mm-hmm. But we're all called to be witnesses to the gospel. We're all called to lay our lives down, to pick up our cross. That's an across-the-board requirement, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. It's something that we forget about because we kind of put some on a pedestal. I think I'm guilty of this with missionaries. I think, oh man, selling everything or just dropping everything here in America to go and serve strangers in a foreign country. That's giving it all right there. But I've heard missionaries say that they look at pastors and they say, pastors have to lay down their whole schedule. They don't get any time to themselves. The missionaries sometimes have told me, at least they kind of have freedom whenever they go over in another country to kind of do what they want. But a pastor in America might be on call 24/7. They say they wouldn't want to do that necessarily. So, and I think all of us as believers, we all have things in our lives that God is going to ask us to sacrifice. It could be our schedules, our time, our money, whatever. But I think there's areas where God challenges all of us to be that living sacrifice he talks about in Romans 12.
I agree.
Yeah. So the book here, just kind of looking through the table of contents. So there's 10 chapters. And tell us a little bit about the layout of the book. How'd you narrow it down to these 10 themes?
I thought through what are the 10 most detrimental things. I mean, there's probably more in here that every believer faces. And it really got narrowed down for me to things I've seen in my own life and other people's lives. So chapter 1 would be the deconstruction. I think every believer has moments where which in other words is falling away. If you follow Christ long enough, you're going to have a moment where you want to quit. Or, if you don't backslide completely, you create another version of Jesus, which is just as bad. Offense, betrayal, bitterness, unforgiveness, suffering, disappointment, complaining. I mean, those are all pretty, relevant to a believer's life, even non-believers. I mean, you really can see that throughout our lives and moments where we fight that,
Yeah. Something else you talk about here is how believers need to wholly give to God what is God's. And let's just talk about that for a minute. Like, okay, well, what is God's? And what do you think Christians get wrong about that a lot of the time?
I mean, the first thing is your life, your rights. I mean, when you accept Christ, you technically have no more rights. Your rights have been crucified with. When a man was nailed to a cross, his rights were put on the cross. And the problem is when we live a life thinking our life is still our own. Yeah, I give this example. Even your money. People, that's my money. I've earned it. It's like if you work at McDonald's and someone pays you money, the money that comes into your hands is not yours. It belongs to the owner of the company. It's the same with our finances. We are to steward that which is God. And I think the compartmentalization of our lives has been the downfall of many people. They give God what they think is God's and they keep what they think is theirs. But as a believer, everything belongs to him. We're not in a democracy. We're in a theocracy. We're in a kingdom. We have a king. We don't have a president that we vote for, nor do we have things that we get to pick and choose.
Right.
When we become a Christian, we follow a king.
Yeah, it's interesting how we'll go to church on Sunday. We'll sing songs about, oh, Lord, I give my all to you. I laid on my life. I laid on my soul. But then, like you said, we turn around and might not necessarily be giving to God with our finances or our time and not even doing some of those basic things that the Bible calls us to do.
If Christians don't tell lies, they for sure sing them right. Every Sunday.
Yeah, it really is something to watch ourselves on sometimes. One last question for you today, sir. What's the most important takeaway that you want readers to gain from Legends Die Young?
My prayer is that this book, if they are on the verge of falling away, it would give them context to not quit. For various reasons, church pain, leadership failures, their own failures. And then I think for a believer that you would say is on fire for God, meaning they feel like everything in their relationship is going great, that they would have safeguards to keep them in the faith and be aware of the devil's tactics. The devil, He's a master at what he does. He's been deceiving mankind from the beginning of time. He has no tricks. He's an old dog with old tricks. And if you could learn those, I'm not saying you're foolproof and you're never going to have moments of weakness, but you should become a whole lot more aware of situations than not knowing.
Yeah. No, I definitely think so. I think this book will help people too in that. Not just it's not that not having problems, but I think we'll face them with such a better attitude if we have a more realistic understanding of the way that this world works. So the book, again, it's called Legends Die Young. No one lives until they die, and it's by Brian Barcelona. This was published by Charisma House Publishers. But hey, Brian, where would you want to send people if they want to find out more about this book?
They can go to Amazon. That's probably one of the best places, and they can get it there.
Okay. Well, hey, that's simple. I think everyone knows how to find that. So, hey, Brian, thanks again for your time. We hope people will check out Legends Die Young.
Thank you so much.
The world is in chaos. You're here for a purpose. What does the Bible have to say about it all? I'm Mark Taylor, host of Crosspoint podcast and radio show, and I'd like to invite you to join me each week as I navigate the complexities of faith, culture, and personal growth. Each week, I interview a different guest who is making an impact on the culture for God's kingdom. Whether you're seeking spiritual guidance, true information, or a fresh perspective, this podcast equips you to discern truth in today's chaotic world. When Christianity intersects with everyday life, that's where you'll find Crosspoint, sometimes discussing the issues that some churches don't want to talk about. Look up Crosspoint with Mark Taylor wherever you get your podcast, produced by KNEO Radio and the Sky High Podcast Network.